Good morning, everyone. My name is Dr. Suzanne Tirk, and I'm the clarinet professor at the University of Oklahoma, and I'm thrilled that you're here today. This is a very quick 25 minutes to talk about something that can take a long time to discuss. So if you have any questions, please feel free to catch me afterwards or email me. I've included my email on the handout. I would love to talk with you about this. It's very near and dear to my heart. If you would like to take out your instrument, it is easier to try some of these things when you have your instrument out. So if you'd like to, you are welcome to. So you can a little later try a different hand position. While people are doing that, I just want to give you a quick background on my own injury story. When I was a freshman in college, I had an overuse injury that was completely debilitating, chronic, horrible pain for about 5 years. I went to physical therapy multiple times. And each time I would get a little bit better, and I'd come back to the clarinet, and guess what? I would reignite the injury because I could never actually change, I never changed anything really on the instrument. So I kind of was in this cycle. I was very fortunate in graduate school to study with Dr. Elsa Ludwig-Verder at Michigan State University, and she had come up with a different hand position for herself, and based on her own observations of her hand, and she told all her students about it. She didn't expect everyone to do it, but she told everyone about it. And when she told me about it, I thought, oh my gosh, this totally changes the way that my hand would work on the instrument. And so I started practicing it and using it. It totally changed everything for me. I was on the path to ending my career, and that's how bad the injury was. And this hand position saved me. I have tweaked it as I have gotten older and have taught more students who have been injured. There are some in this room that I have worked with on hand position because they have been injured. And so it's very near and dear to my heart, and I hope that this can help you if you're injured or experience thumb pain, or if you have students that are experiencing it. So we'll just get started. Why does our right hand thumb hurt? Why does it get injured so easily? This is a very typical hand position right here. By the way, I did forget something. I'll be using B-flat clarinet as my examples today, but actually you can use this for any of the auxiliary instruments or members of the clarinet family. Also, the handout is going to go in a different order than what I'm saying today. So if you can pay attention to this, it's actually better, and later on more information can be found in the handout. So this is a typical hand position right here. And if you notice, the thumb rest is very tiny. And so even the bigger ones that some of the clarinets are coming with are pretty small. And so the most effective way to put your thumb is in this kind of parallel position sort of to the clarinet. It's kind of going right against the clarinet. But this has some problems. If you look at the yellow arrow, when your thumb is in this position, the weight of the clarinet is pulling down your thumb. That's all it's doing. The thumb cannot lift up. It's pulling down on the thumb. When that happens, check out the red arrow. We suddenly have, and it's a little hard to see, but there's stretching of the webbing between the thumb and the first finger. Stretching and tension in there. We come over to the blue arrow, and when your thumb is being, if you kind of do this and pull it down, you're right, if the thumb isn't doing much, the right hand has to grab the clarinet. And you can see the grabbing in this hand position. You can see the whiteness of the tendons. The tendons are jutting out. There's whiteness on them. We can also look at this from the front. This is the same position, but from the front. And if you see the blue arrow, you're seeing the white knuckles, which is tension in the hand. You're seeing the red arrow, which is the flattened pinky and ring finger. The middle finger, the yellow, has one of these with the first knuckle kind of pressing down. There's tension in that finger right there at that first knuckle pressing into the key. And the purple arrow is showing the first finger grabbing. And this is actually a deceptive finger. It doesn't look that tense, but if you had someone play a low G on the clarinet and then try to pull their fingers off, the hardest finger to pull off is that right hand first finger. People grab, they pinch with that. So, I don't know why that came up, sorry. Okay. From the side, you can also see the tension. You see the tendons, again, you can see the tendons actually on the first 3 fingers pretty well, especially that first one. You see the whiteness in the knuckles. And then on the bottom, the red arrow, this is hard to see. It was very difficult to work with a photographer on this because they were trying to figure out how to get the lighting correct. But on that red arrow, that pinky right here on the side of the palm gets very tense with a typical hand position. And that's what that red arrow is indicating. So what I'm going to show you now is the difference between a typical hand position, which is tense, and the hand position that I have taught myself, taught my students, that has made such a huge difference for us. So this is the tense hand position with no arrows, so you can kind of take a look at it, and we're looking at the tension in the hand. This is my hand position. You can see that the knuckles are not white anymore. The tendon is not jutting out or white. The thumb webbing is not stretched. The only place where you're seeing white is along the thumb rest, where the thumb is actually holding up the clarinet. So I'm going to go back to the tense one again, and here is mine. Can you guys see the difference? I hope you can see it. Okay. This is from the front. So again, take a look at those white places, the tension in the fingers and the knuckles, and here's mine. So we've got no tension in the knuckles in hand. The fingers are coming around curved easily on the clarinet. This is the incorrect one with the tension. And then this one with no tension. From the side, again, we see the tendon sticking out, we see the knuckles. And that's mine now, which is the relaxed one. You can see that there is no white on the knuckles. The tendon on the first finger sticking out, that's what my hand looks like just in general when I hold it up, but there's no white around it. It is not tense. So again, this is the tense version and the one I play with now. We have to talk about the thumb just a little bit to kind of understand what's happening here, because it really is a positioning of the thumb that I am advocating for. So just a quick look. We have an opposable thumb, so that means that our thumb can touch all the way across our hand. It can do this. If you look at this picture, the thumb has big, strong muscles. You can see that grouping of muscles with the thumb, and they are separate from the rest of the hand. So you can tense up this thumb muscle and relax the rest of your hand. It's hard to do because we're used to tensing everything up, but you can do it. You can relax this part and tense up this muscle. I can show you afterwards if you want. This muscle can get tight, or I should never say tight, excuse me, can firm up, and then the hand can be relaxed. That's very important for the hand position that we're going to talk about today. In the position that I am advocating for, we come into the clarinet at a 50-degree angle. This is a normal angle that people typically come in at. And you can see that that's about a 10-degree angle, and mine is coming in at about a 50-degree angle, okay? This angle is challenging because the thumb is about ready to fall off the clarinet. You can kind of see it. My thumb, there's only a little tiny bit of the thumb rest on the thumb, and so no one in their right mind would try to play this way because it's uncomfortable, it doesn't feel right, it's not supported. So we're going to add some tools to it to help. This is angling correctly. Okay, so one thing, before I get to this particular slide, two things I want to mention. Number one, checking the thumb rest position on the clarinet is very important. Most clarinets have the thumb rest a little too low. We're talking about 2-3 millimeters too low. When I have had students try this, I'll say, have your thumb rest move just a little bit up, and they come back to me and, oh my gosh, this feels so different. It is so much easier to play. And so I always have I experiment with them. There are so many brands of clarinets right now that I can't tell you an exact place. I had a picture in here and I thought it's not even worth it because there's so many different kinds of clarinets. So in the handout I talk a little bit more about experimenting with the thumb rest position to help you. But so take a look at that and you can certainly ask me questions if you have them. The other thing is you also, for this to work, need one of the old-fashioned thumb rests, and not one of the new ones that have one of the adjustable ones or something like that. It does need to be kind of the old-fashioned one so we can use the tool, which is this black piece of surgical tubing I have in this picture. What we need to make this wedging work, to get this right hand thumb in at this new angle, this 50-degree angle, we need the thumb rest to be elongated, and we need there to be material that grips the thumb. If it's too slippery, it doesn't work. If it's not long enough, it doesn't work. You see from this picture that this thumb rest goes all the way out. It's basically taking the thumb rest all the way to the edge of my thumb, even past it. And you can see, I'm hoping on there, a little bit of the white on the side of my thumb where the finger is wedging in there. We need to be able to press our thumb against that. Thummy is what we call it. I am using black surgical tubing, but there are other options, which I've included in your handout. For me, black surgical tubing works the best because it is, sorry, this keeps popping up. It's the best because it's a little sturdier to use. This is, I wanted to show you this. This is my thumb, like I was saying before, kind of falling off the thumb rest. And this is it with the thummy on it, which gives it the support. So this one is going to fall off if I don't have the thummy on there. This is a picture of the leather portion of a neck strap. And the leather portion can actually be used to give you even more support and more grip. So what you do is just take the leather off, or if you want to use a neck strap, you can just keep the neck strap attached. You place it on first, put the thummy on second, and then place your thumb underneath in this correct angle. And this really, several of my students have really appreciated this. They've actually, some of them have made their own. They've gone out and bought suede and cut holes in it and made their own to kind of fit how they want it to feel. Like different thicknesses of leather or suede. But this also can provide a little bit of support to your thumb. So when I play with a thumb rest, or sorry, neck strap, excuse me, I will put my thumb underneath like this to just get a little bit more support. It can feel better. So that's another option. Now let's get started with how you actually figure out how to do this hand position. So if you have a clarinet and want to grab it, we can do so. Will this turn out this way a little bit? So we come, I don't know if I can sort of come up here a little bit. So I can kind of show you, it's a little tricky. So in this picture, I have tried to show you my thumb without the thummy on there, just so that you can see my thumb. The photographer was, I was having to lean way over while he took this picture, so it looks like it's a little off to the side. The thumb should really be on that first knuckle. So if you can put your thumb with your, let me actually, I forgot something, excuse me. Can everyone just relax their arm by their side, just kind of try and swing it by their side? If we can just bring our arm up like this. Good. Not marching band this, okay? So if the elbow's out, it destroys everything we're talking about. So try that for me right now. Go ahead and bring your hand up just from its elbow, from the relaxation, and look at the angle of your hand. I am not seeing any person with their wrist like this, with the bent wrist like this. Everyone's coming up with their wrists like this. And so we have this coming up. If you put your hand up, can you bring your elbow out like this? And look at where your wrist is. You see how it pulls it out, and the thumb goes into that common position, okay? So if you can bring it, again, just relax your arm by your side and bring it up. That's how we're going to start, and that's how I'm going to suggest you play. Now take your thumb and go ahead and put that thumbnail up to the ceiling. So just go ahead and point it up to the ceiling like this. It's going to feel weird, but put it up to the ceiling. Then we're going to place that thumb about 3 inches below the thumb rest, and you're going to kind of press it firmly into the clarinet. Okay, so this is what it looks like from behind. Like down here. Okay. And then I'm going to slide this up very firmly with my nail still pointing to the ceiling, slide that up into the thumb rest. That looks like that. Excuse me, that looks like that. From the front, this is going to look really weird. Okay, so I'm sliding up, and you see how my hand is still down because I'm keeping my thumbnail up to the ceiling. It looks really funky at this point. We are now going to slowly, without trying to move the thumb, bring the fingers around. Now the thumb is going to move slightly, but our intention is to not move it hardly at all. So I'm going to slowly bring it around and onto the keys. So to show you, this is it slowly coming around and then onto the keys. So I'll try and do this behind so you can kind of see. Slide it up. And then from this side, or I should show you my thumb. It's up to the ceiling, and I'm going to slowly bring it around like that. Okay? The thumbnail, these are some checks that you can make on this hand position. The thumbnail should be pointed up to the chest, head, even the ceiling. This is because when the finger is in the correct position, at that correct angle, that's where the nail should be pointing. Most people point it right towards the abdomen. This is incorrect. It points to the abdomen. And if we can point it up to this direction, much better. I will say some people have extremely flexible thumbs. So they are able to keep their thumb in the exact same place as they would bring their hand around, and they have a thumb that points to the ceiling. Dr. Verdier was one of those people. She had like a saddle thumb, and she was so flexible she could kind of turn her whole hand around without moving that thumb. And I can't. I'm not that flexible, and I've worked with so many students on this and seen different thumbs, very many different kinds of thumbs, and I've worked with each person individually to kind of figure out, exactly how to work it and where the correct place is for that thumbnail. But the idea is to make sure that that thumbnail is pointing upwards rather than straight toward the belly button, basically. Another thing to check is that the wrist is in and relaxed. So as I was showing you, if the wrist isn't in and relaxed, we get the incorrect hand position. So this is in and relaxed, and this is out and tense. We also want to look at the shape as we're looking down at our hand. So in a typical position, most people, when you look down, you see that backwards C. And that is an indication that the hand... Sorry, can't do that left-handed. There we go. Okay, so that C shape is an indication of an issue. So the correct shape that we want is this kind of italicized backwards U. It's kind of funny, but that's the shape that we are looking for. If you see someone with a hand in a V, that is too far. You don't want a V. We want a U, but not a C. So we're kind of going through the alphabet here and really making fine distinctions as to the shape of the hand. All the knuckles in this hand position should be curved. First knuckles, I should say all, because the thirds aren't necessarily, but the first knuckle and that second knuckle at the front of the finger need to be curved. A couple things about this. Most people have very weak first knuckles right here because they play with a collapsed finger. And so these knuckles are very, very weak. It takes a while to learn how to play with those to be like this. And actually, I do finger exercises and with students and myself to kind of continue strengthening those just over and over again, very relaxed, playing on those fingers, and it strengthens those muscles in there to keep that actually up. So that is something to be aware of. You want to keep those curved, you don't want to let them collapse. Also with this hand position, we want that first finger in the right hand to be up near the E-flat key. This is what can happen. It can be slanted down like this. People are like, oh, I've got my hand in the right position, my fingers are all curved, my thumb is wedged under, but their hand is slanted down this way. And so we just very gently, I'll show you from here if you can see my hand, like this, we just very gently and slowly bring it just back up. It's common for people when they're changing to be like, big motions, big movements, and it's just very slowly that you bring that up into position. The last thing that I want to show you is that when your hand is in the correct position and you look down at it, your back knuckles should be back by the thumb rest. If you're in that correct U, backwards U shape, it's going to be sort of backed by that thumb rest. If you look at the tense hand position, you'll see that those knuckles are raised really high. They're actually up by the level of the side keys up there, like on the level, kind of on the top of the clarinet versus the back side of the clarinet. And that can just, again, indicate, these are sort of checkpoints for you yourself or as a teacher to look at your student's hand and just see if those are issues. Something important to, I sort of touched on this, but something important to say about this is, if you are injured or working with a student that is injured, it is so important, vital, that you do this type of thing very slowly. It's not, when I was injured myself, I had to do this incredibly slowly to try and change my hand, and it's super frustrating because I remember it myself, and then as I've worked with students, it's incredibly frustrating because they'll say, but I can't play my music, I can feel my hand changing, and we just kind of, I keep encouraging them pretty soon, just work on it every day. If you just do 1% better every day, it accumulates, it adds up, and we finally get to a place where you're doing more of that, playing with the correct hand position than with the incorrect hand position. Does anybody, we have a couple minutes left, does anybody have any questions? Yes?
Two questions. One, Tom Rittenhour has saddle comment about that, if you would. And what about playing and particular practicing with the clarinet bell resting on your knees or between your knees?
Okay, great questions. I will say I don't have a lot. I have some experience with the thumb rests that basically go onto this knuckle to use this knuckle as support. And what I've found with them is that they don't let you do the 50-degree angle. So you basically continue to not use the thumb muscle. I'm not saying that it's not, people use them and it works for them. If you want, I find that my students that have tried that thumb rest, or thumb rest like that, extenders like that, tend to continue to be tense in their hand. They don't stop the gripping that happens because that thumb is in that angle, that 10-degree angle. So when they come to that 50-degree angle, they don't have that same grab, and they're able to relax their hand and play more tension-free, faster, more evenly with their right hand. Your second question, which I thought I was going to remember, the bell, yes. So I caution you against using your bell on your knees, and I will say that when I was injured, it started with my thumb, I ignored it. Went into my hand, I ignored it. Started going at my arm, and I started thinking, okay, maybe this isn't right. But this was a long time ago, I'm old, and it was taboo to kind of talk about injury. It was not a thing to talk about. So I kind of let it keep going, and I did exactly what you said. I kept it on my knees, and I tried to play. It went into my back, and then I still have back pain related to what happened. I won't say how many years ago, but definitely over 20. So yes, we've got to wrap it up. Anybody else? Yes?
Is there a certain relaxation exercise you would suggest, like one of this work gets tense or tired and practice a lot?
Oh, I would say you have to stop. Yeah, I mean, I would say you have to stop.
But
Yes.
Any physical exercise in particular?
I don't know if I have a ton of time to tell you, but can you talk to me afterwards? Because I'll talk about it. Because yes, but you see people doing this all the time with their thumb, and I think that means you're overplaying. You have to stop and try and give it rest. It needs rest. So I do need to go. Thank you so much. If you have any questions,